what you want to go above and beyond in are the areas that are most appreciated by those around you, and not those things that are not as valued by the nature of the work that you do, by your peers, or by your boss. You want to kind of do above and beyond in those high quality, high value areas so that they can be recognized. And I would also say to LaShawn, it's not only about standing out to get a promotion. For example, that's one way. You also want to stand out so that you can get a good reference for your next job. You're listening to the Public Health Insight Podcast, your go-to space for all things public health and global health, from the Sustainable Development Goals to the social determinants of health, as well as interesting dialogues about the diverse career opportunities that exist in these fields. Remember to subscribe to the podcast and leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts and Spotify so other people like you can benefit from our content.
Hey everyone, it's LaShawn here, and I'm here with Gordon Thane, taking the back seat today. Gordon, what's going on?
You kind of bullied me into relinquishing my main hosting responsibilities, but you seem very excited about it, so I didn't want to rain on your parade.
I wanted to feel what it's like to be a real leader, so...
A real leader.
There we go.
What's a real leader anyway?
We'll get into that in another episode, but not today.
Not today.
Today, we're actually going to continue on with our series of 9 episodes talking about lessons out of our MPH degree. And this stems from a lecture series that we did at Western University last year, actually, and we wanted to share it on the podcast so that everyone could benefit from the learning. So you could find lessons 1, lessons 2 on previous episodes, but today we're going to be talking about lesson number 3, which is how to stand out at your workplace. Gordon, why do people find the need to even stand out at their workplace? Why is that important?
Because we all want to be validated. We all want to be appreciated. We all want to be told that we're doing a good job. We don't want to feel like a fish out of water. So we're here to tell you that you can play the luck game and that hope that you figure things out, or you can take very simple steps to set yourself up to gain the knowledge and understanding that you need to do a good job.
But what if I just don't want to stand out? What if I just want to stay in my lane and do my thing? Yeah. Why?
What's the opposite of out? In? Inside? Out?
Yeah. Let's stand in. Whatever you want to call it. Why?
You want to fall in line? So, in a weird way, the approach is actually the same. Because if you don't want to get noticed, that means you have to be performing to a level that your peers are performing. And the same observational skills are required. The same kind of information gathering is required to understand what the standards are for the workplace, for the different projects and deliverables, how relationships work, the team culture, the different kind of etiquette, social norms. Those are some things that whether you want to stand out or stand in, you kind of have to do the same thing. And then you make the decision whether you want to go above and beyond or not. But only when you understand all these things can you even make that decision. Okay, that's my opinion.
So what are some of the things that we should be looking for then?
So yeah, like I said, when you start, depending on how much job experience you have, there might be transferable skills from when you started other jobs that you would take to this. Some things that worked really well and some things you wish you didn't do, and then you don't repeat those things when you're starting this new job, right? So what that could look like is the main thing I think is important when you want to stand out in the job is explicitly asking whoever you're reporting to, and maybe your peers as well, what are their expectations of you? So that will allow you to meet the expectations or go above and beyond and exceed them. But you need to know where they are in the first place. So that's a very, 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 very first thing you should go there and understand.
Right. So
you don't usually do that, LaShawn? You look like you just had a revelation.
I mean, yes, I do, but I'm just trying to. So I'm trying to think here. Obviously, how to stand out at your workplace. Obviously, you want to have a good impression. You want to develop relationships that are strong and positive in your workplace because you're going to be spending a lot of your time there. So you want to develop and cultivate those working relationships.
Yeah.
When I think about standing out at your workplace, why would I want to do that?
Ooh.
Okay.
Okay.
Why?
Let's
What's
talk.
the reason? Obviously, there's a part where I just care and I'm passionate about the things that I want to do and I want to do my best, which is great. There's also other things that people might be thinking about, right? Like how to get a promotion at work. How can I stand out so that I could get that promotion, which could lead to more responsibilities that might be more interest to you, or possibly more financial incentives to go to that next level, right? And if you're standing out at your workplace, you're very much in the right spot to be thinking about those things because you've demonstrated that you potentially can go above and beyond. You've demonstrated
Right.
that you're a person that can get along well with others and you're able to do your work at a really high quality, right? And those things naturally can help you progress to those different areas that you want to go.
Right. And you know what the funny thing is? There's a misconception that going above and beyond is always the right thing to do. It's not. It's
right,
not.
right.
It's not. It's more about when's the right time to do the bare minimum and when's the
Yes.
right time to go above and beyond. And
That's a skill for
it's
sure.
a skill. What you want to go above and beyond in are the areas that are most appreciated by those around you and not those things that are not as valued by the nature of the work that you do, by your peers or by your boss. You want to kind of do above and beyond in those high quality, high value areas so that they can be recognized. And I would also say to LaShawn, it's not only about standing out to get a promotion. For example, that's one way. You also want to stand out so that you can get a good reference for your next job.
That's right.
Because what you don't want, and I've seen it before, is you then ask your boss to be a reference for a subsequent job. And then, they're happy for you and they're saying the right things. You, unfortunately, are not even in the position to know what they say about you on the phone call or filling out a reference form. But I've seen ones where one question that's always on referee forms is that question, would you hire them again?
Yeah.
And I've seen a couple maybes. And if I'm hiring someone, I don't know how I feel about their reference saying maybe. That's like a red flag.
Yeah.
That's a confusing, for me, it's yes or no. The maybe it's kind of neither here nor there. And the maybe could come from things where maybe you didn't stand out, right? Maybe you really didn't stand out in a way where they have anything above the run in the mill to say about you. Like, yeah, good, he's good, meets expectations, satisfactory, nothing special. I've hired people like him before, and I'll hire people like him again.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of what that says to me about maybe. So standing out is beneficial in terms of mobility within a specific organization, as well as when you want to leave and get a good reference.
Right. So it's making me think as well, right? We're not necessarily just talking about the quality of your work necessarily and your technical abilities. There's also those interpersonal aspects that can be highlighted. And I think for me personally, that's what helps me stand out in any position that I go to. It's how well do you get along with other people? Are you always working with others and helping them even though it's not your responsibility, and you help the team overall because of that extra initiative you took? Like those are kind of some of the intangibles. Or are you there to listen? Like, are you there to listen to some of your colleagues and help them troubleshoot different problems or challenges that are emerging in their line of work? A lot of those things, like just listening, communication, and just coming in with like an optimistic attitude, I feel also makes a huge difference, right? Because if you're coming to work and you're just like, oh, okay, he told me to do this, I'll do it, I guess, blah, 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 blah. And then you start spreading rumors, you're talking negatively about other people, it could lead to a very negative environment. So, yeah, I think that's an important aspect too to consider.
Do you have an idea for a topic you want us to cover or any questions you want to ask us? There's a cool new feature that you can use wherever you are in the world, which allows you to instantly send us a text message at no cost to you. All you have to do is open the full episode description in whatever platform you're listening from and follow the instructions at the very bottom. We'll be sure to give you a shout out in the next episode that we record. Now back to the podcast. And it ties into our next point about how you can get up to speed and the skills that are very well sought out in your workplace, or skills that are just highly valuable. And you touched on the point there about the technical skills being overvalued in such a way that the basic everyday interpersonal skills get devalued or underappreciated. Maybe that's a better way to say it, where you may be able to do a really great job writing up that project charter, but you're not a personable person. You don't smile. You don't interact well with others. And it almost would serve you better if you were maybe less good writing that project charter, if it could bolster your interpersonal skills. So it's about a balance, right? Some things you'll be naturally...
some of your stats.
Right? Exactly.
Think of video games.
Video games. So some things you're naturally going to be good at, and you might want to stick to your strengths. And maybe your strengths are interpersonal skills, but you don't feel you don't know how to leverage those to improve team outputs and team morale. And I encourage you to lean into that, because those are usually how you get remembered, right? Mm-hmm. You miss a deadline, but you're known for being someone of such high character that people don't really use it as a judgment on you because they see how well-rounded you are. So
it sounds like a halo effect.
Halo effect.
Do you know that?
Yeah. Okay. But no, halo effect, that's not a good thing.
Well, I think if you're... It's not a good thing. But I think it applies because you're saying that if people think you're really good at like those interpersonal skills, they'll cut you more slack and think you're even good at other things that you do, like potentially a report, you'll get more slack on it. But even if it wasn't as good, right? Yeah. They think you're good in other areas.
Yeah, so I think it could lead to a halo effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know if that's what we would define as a halo effect, but an over appreciation.
Right
no, halo. I'll tell you what it is. Halo effect refers to when being skilled in one thing makes your employer thinks you could be skilled in other things.
Yeah.
And then it basically gets to a level where you're no longer able to meet those expectations.
Okay, I don't know.
It's like an assumption. So what you're saying is not necessarily wrong. What happens is like, oh, LaShawn is really good. He could probably lead that partnership meeting. And no, that's a halo effect. So that assumption can lead to a halo effect for sure.
Basing your overall impression of something or someone on a single characteristic.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
True.
So there
Psychology
you go.
101.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
The Psychology Insight podcast.
Oh, no. Oh, no. We're not doing that one.
All right. So we talked about, do we do the bare minimum? Do we go above and beyond? What are some of those benefits there? We talked about kind of the importance of getting to speed and understanding the different skills that are premium in your work environment. And to add to that piece, I think it's really important to have conversation with other people. Have conversations with your manager, staff in different areas of the department, staff in different parts of the organization. Get a sense of what's valued at the organization, right? They might say, hey, at this organization, we really value hard work, positive attitude, and always making sure you get deadlines, get things done by deadlines or something like that, right? Just so you know, and then you could build towards doing those things, right? Because what's the point of doing things that may not be as valued or productive to the organization? You might think that making detailed meeting notes is something that's very valued, which low-key I think is very valued. But at the given organization, it might not be, but you spend a lot of time doing it. You just want to rethink where you're putting your energy towards.
On that note, there's something to be said for going against the status quo sometimes. And what I mean by that is if you understand the overall business strategy,
right,
despite being told certain things are valuable, that might contradict what you interpret from the overall organization's goals. And then you might even be a change maker in that area, advocating for different practices to be more in line with those business strategies, and surprise the people that you work with and work for, because you're now presenting an alternative point of view, creating different efficiencies based on more alignment with the overall goal. And that in of itself is a skill to like constantly question, are we doing the right thing in the right way? That's also a skill that can be leveraged no matter where you are.
Oh, for sure. Like, totally agree with that point. Think about it. If you have like experience with project management or quality improvement, you notice that this is an area that your organization is lacking in, you could kind of get a sense of if this could fit in and what kind of steps you could take towards incorporating it. Obviously, you don't want to come in super hot and be like, we got to do this. This needs to change. That needs to change when you start your job. No, you got to be subtle with it. You gotta have fun with it a bit and just work your way into it, right?
Yeah.
Or
For example,
For
example, you're making Gantt charts manually in Excel. You know, maybe there's a different way to do that that might save some time that you can introduce, right?
That's it. There's so many different software out there that you could introduce, and I know personally speaking, there's been so many times where I've gone into organizations and we've incorporated specific software within the organizations due to my recommendations, which helped a lot with workflow and has led to significant savings across the board. So those things are valued, right? So great point. You don't always have to follow what's already established. There's opportunities to kind of break the mold there. But that's one part of it. But then we have this other part, Gordon. This other part involves the connections piece. So I already mentioned you could talk to people, understand the culture, but what's the importance of building these connections and networks within your organization? And even taking that a step further, your organization potentially works with other organizations, external partners. Is there something to be leveraged there?
Yeah, both approaches equally valuable, but you get different things out of that. So building connections and networking within your organization, of course, this is a bit size dependent as well. So maybe you're a part of a very small organization and it doesn't take a lot of time or effort to get to know the rest of the team. Still, it requires effort to continue building on those relationships. Some people, for whatever reason or another, you might connect with more than others, and that's okay. But also understanding how they're situated and their positionality in the organization might be an asset that you can capitalize on later down the road or not. You know, sometimes you do. Sometimes building a relationship in of itself is an end goal, and it might lead to a goal in the future that you didn't really know that connection could support with. But had you not built that connection, that would have been a dead end. So understand, and then having allies in the workplace, potentially finding mentorship as well for people who have been working at that organization longer or working in that specific field or area of expertise longer than you have. Building a connection with them is also important in your overall growth as well. But, you know, LaShawn, you mentioned an organization might work with other partners and you might be involved in those projects. I like this because I always say to my team whenever I have a new hire and they sort of ask me, how do I stand out, or what's sort of some of the most important things I could do? I will say something like, nothing carries more weight than when an external partner says, hey, that LaShawn is a keeper. That's it. Nothing needs to be said. That automatically, even if I'm like, oh, LaShawn's not as good as this, not good, that's going to program me now, and this is psychology, to overinflate how good LaShawn actually is. And that's, I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing, but the reality is we're influenced by words, we're influenced by other people's perceptions of each other. And just hearing someone say to me that LaShawn's a keeper, my brain's going to start going, oh, what's LaShawn doing to make them so happy? And I'm going to basically elevate LaShawn's value to the team almost subconsciously without my own evaluation necessarily. So the partnership words carry a lot of weight. And that's a reputation thing too. You want the people who work for an organization to represent well, and it means a lot when it comes from someone else.
Yeah, and then to take that point a bit further too is not only is it good for your reputation that a partner is saying good things about you, if you're in a field of public health and probably a related area of public health, when you decide that you maybe want to switch jobs or apply for a new role, it's probably those types of organizations who you partnered with already that are you're going to apply to those jobs at those organizations, right? And having connections that can vouch for you and give you kind of that inside scoop on what it's like is very valuable on so many different levels when it comes to salary negotiation, organizational culture, being a reference, all those different things, super plus.
Touche. Speaking from experience there.
Yep. Of course, you got a network. And finally, wrapping up, again, we're talking about how to stand out at work. I think there's something to be said about people that we're kind of overseeing or managing that have a knack to always want to improve and always look for growth opportunities. Can you speak a bit more about why that might be a way to stand out?
It's a bit of I find it's a weird one as someone who's been in leadership in different organizations. It's a weird one because I've never seen. So typically, just to backtrack, for example, you have a PD budget, so professional development budget that's allocated by team and then it gets split, or everybody has like a maximum allowance per year or something about money that can be spent on their professional growth and development. I have never seen where this is an issue in terms of the budget running out. It's such an underutilized thing. And what I hear from a lot of people is actually weird, but what I hear from a lot of people is like, oh, yeah, we don't want to. It's almost like a not wanting to cost the organization money. No, that money could be used for something else. I don't want to burden the organization. And it's like, whoa. Wait a minute here. We want you to do this. You're going to learn something, a new practice, a new idea, a new way of working that you're going to bring to the organization, and it's going to be worth more than what we invested in your growth and development. Like what you bring is going to be worth more than what we allocated towards that professional development endeavor. So that's something that's always missed, I find, in that. And it tells you as a manager that your team is hungry to like keep growing, and it might expand the horizons of different projects you might take on, because LaShawn says, hey, I really want something that has more of an AI spin to it because I'm always curious to learn. Had LaShawn not had that conversation with me, I might have told my director like, hey, we don't have the expertise or interest in AI, and I'm not sure that project is something that we could take on. But because LaShawn has had those growth conversations with me, I'm now able to challenge him on those things that he's interested in learning about and contributing to. So those conversations are super, super important.
Yeah, and then even in the case where there is no professional development budget at the organization, there are still opportunities to explore growth. There's still opportunity to pursue different growth opportunities, whether it be talking to your manager or director about joining them on any task that they do to help support the work that you do to show your initiative, right? Or it's about you in your current role, understanding what you can and can't do and identifying gaps to figure out how you could fill those gaps. So, for example, one of the first jobs that I had to manage a global $250,000 to $500,000 project. And I'm like, there's so many stakeholders, so many seasoned professionals in this project. What the heck do I do? Right? And quickly found my way and landed into project management as an area that I could develop and get certifications in and explore further growth opportunities in, and learning about what you don't know and how you can improve those things and posing that to your director or manager and saying, hey, this is something that I want to learn more of. Are there more opportunities? Is there some time I could potentially take off and learn a bit more about this during the day. Like those are things that show initiative, and again, you're bringing back value to the organization based on the way that you're completing things in the regular line of work that you're already doing. All right. So Gordon, we talked about how to stand out at work. Do you use some of these tips at your work currently, or no?
Yeah, I think right now I'm in the standing in phase. So oddly enough. So because the other part of it too, which we didn't get to talk about, is you can have that ambition to stand out so much that you achieve a level that you're fairly satisfied with, that kind of gets the job done and people are happy and satisfied. And for your own replenishment and kind of being content in where you are is not always a bad thing. Not every ounce of your energy should be spent, I need to grow. Sometimes you be present where you are. Try to understand the little things, try to understand the minutia, and then recoup your energy for sort of the next pursuit. So that's not always a bad thing. So I'm in the standing in phase right now.
I'm glad you mentioned that because it is true. I mean, as public health professionals and practitioners, we're always, doing our best to help populations and, sometimes it's just draining and can lead to burnout and, fatigue. So definitely you don't always have to be at the standout phase. And typically there's always a lot of people when they're starting off the career that are bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and they're coming in with a lot of energy, and they soon kind of realize what the workforce is really like. So it's a figuring out process. I'm glad that you mentioned that, and I think that's a good place to end this episode. But before we leave you today, there's a cool new feature that you could check out in our comment section, which is basically the ability to send us a text message. And we would be able to read that on our end. So in the link, there's a little link there that you could click. It'll open your phone app, your text messaging app, and you could send us a message. Let us know what you think about this episode. Maybe give us suggestions for future episodes, and we'll read that. And is there a way to respond back, Gordon, or no?
No, I tried. We tested it. But we can shout you out on the episode, so you just have to make sure you listen.
All right. And with that, it's LaShawn and Gordon signing out. Peace.
This show was edited by me, Gordon Thane, with additional editing from LaShawn Benedict. Sound design and mixing by myself and LaShawn Benedict. The original music from The Music Room, composed by Tom Fox, licensed from Johnny Harris. The cover art designed for our show by LaShawn Benedict. The Public Health Insight Podcast is produced by PHI Media. Thank you for listening to the Public Health Insight Podcast, your go-to space for informative conversations, inspiring community action. If you enjoy our podcast, be sure to subscribe and leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. See you in the next one.